With the upcoming presidential debate, this is the question for Biden and Trump. What does the debate offer? Is it a rare chance to change perceptions? I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. According to the Christian Science Monitor, for incumbent presidents, the first debate of the general election campaign is often a flop. After 4 years in a deferential White House bubble, shielded from any real primary competition to hone their debating skills, many incumbents come across as rusty and out of touch. Past examples range from President Ronald Reagan's rambling first debate performance against former Vice President Walter Mondale in 1984, to President Barack Obama's lackluster first outing against former Governor Mitt Romney in 2012, or even President Donald Trump's overly aggressive first face-off against former Vice President Joe Biden in 2020. What makes Thursday's debate so unusual is that both candidates may essentially be in the incumbent role. President Biden, despite ongoing concerns from some Democrats about his age, faced only nominal opposition this year and had no difficulty amassing enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination. And despite losing re-election 4 years ago, Mr. Trump never lost his status as the Republican Party's leader. He handily dispatched a field of challengers for the GOP nomination. Despite refusing to participate in any of the primary debates and holding relatively few in-person campaign events. As a result, when they walk into the CNN studio in Atlanta, both men will arguably be facing their first significant test of the campaign. The debate is notably early by historic standards, and with just one other debate on the schedule before November, the stakes couldn't be higher. It's very hard to stay sharp if you're not constantly being challenged at something like this, says Spencer Chrisley, a communication strategist and media advisor to Mr. Obama's 2008 and 2012 campaign. You just can't think about it to stay good at it. You have to practice. Mr. Biden has been sequestered at Camp David since last Thursday, preparing with advisors. Mr. Trump's approach to debate preparation has been less clear, but both campaigns have been trying to raise expectations for the other side, with Mr. Trump even suggesting, with zero evidence, that the president might take drugs to boost his performance. Well, since you want to put it that way, it seems like Mr. Trump may need big cue cards with simple phrases. Although Mr. Trump has held a small lead in most battleground states for much of the year, recent polls show the race has narrowed in the wake of the former president's felony conviction in the New York hush money case, and is now a dead heat nationally. Indeed, the fact that the Trump campaign so quickly accepted the Biden campaign's proposed timing and terms for this debate, strategists say, suggests both sides may be hoping for a reset. The fact that this debate is in June tells us how unusual this cycle is, said Alan Schroeder, author of the book Presidential Debates, Risky Business on the Campaign Trail. Typically, the first presidential debate comes in September or October, whereas this debate is occurring before either candidate has officially secured his party's nomination. This first debate has the chance to shake things up and start moving voters in one direction or the other. While a plurality of voters identify themselves as independents, such as myself, polls suggest that the number of true independents who don't lean one way or the other is actually in the single digits. But as Jordan Tama, a political expert at American University and a national security advisor to Mr. Obama's 2008 campaign, pointed out in a call with reporters Tuesday, debates can be critical for this small population who tips our elections. To try to tip this tiny pool of swing voters in the direction Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump will have very different, if not opposite, mandates Thursday evening. Given that the top issue dodging Mr. Biden's re-election is his age. Let me just say this here. I'm so tired of hearing about Joe Biden's age. Let's talk about Mr. Trump's age. He's 78. He's old. And he doesn't seem to be as sharp as he once was either. And while we're at it, let's talk about some of the long-standing senators. Senator Mitch McConnell is 81 years old, and it's very evident that he has a lot of problems. Also, you have a senator that is 90 years old. Senator Lindsey Graham is getting up in age as well. So let's not play the age game factor here because both candidates are old. Now back to the article. Given that the top issue dodger Mr. Biden's reelection is his age, a recent New York Times Siena College poll found that more than half of the voters who supported him in 2020 say he is just too old. Now, to be an effective president, his priority will be demonstrating that he has the vigor and stamina for 4 more years. Now, what difference does it make? Vice President Kamala Harris, if anything happens to President Biden, should he be reelected, she will officially become the President of the United States. And this is the reason why the Republicans don't want Biden reelected, because they fear that a black woman will become the President of the United States of America. Let's tell it the way it is. Let's deal with the whole elephant and the lioness in the room. They fear that Vice President Kamala Harris will become the first black woman president and woman president of the United States of America. That is the fear factor among the racist, bigoted Republicans. Mr. Trump, on the other hand, who has panned after his first 2020 debate with Mr. Biden for incessantly interrupting, will need to show undecided voters that he can be serious and statesmanlike. Not gonna happen. He's going to be very immature and ignorant like he always is. The number one question for Biden is he up to the job? This debate is the best opportunity. He'll have to show that, says David Kochel, a Republican who served as senior strategist for Florida Governor Jeb Bush's 2016 presidential campaign. Trump needs to show that he can connect with people who aren't just rally goers by talking less about stolen elections and more about the price of groceries. If he can stick to the main theme and repeat Biden's failures, I think he probably has the easier job of the two of them. Not going to happen. And Mr. Biden, President Biden must capitalize on all the things that he has done since he has been the president of the United States of America. And there's a lot that the Biden presidency has accomplished, and I'm going to be talking about them in full detail, no matter how many videos it takes. The 90-minute debate will be a stamina test for both men. The two oldest major party candidates in U.S. history who haven't had to face one another in 4 years. Unlike in past debates, mics will be muted after a candidate's allotted response time, preventing interruptions, and there will be no studio audience. Given that success in debates often means exceeding expectations, the Trump campaign has pivoted in recent days from mocking Mr. Biden as feeble and incompetent to suggesting he will have a strong night. I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. Isn't that ironic? Now all of a sudden, why all of a sudden are they changing their tone toward President Biden? What's such hypocrisy? Mr. Trump, in a recent interview on the All In podcast, similarly North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who is reportedly being considered as running mate for Mr. Trump, said on CNN over the weekend that Mr. Biden will be able to step up when needed. For the Democratic side, former Biden White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield suggested on CNN last week that the muted mic rule may help Mr. Trump, who turned some voters off with the angry, uncivil way he conducted himself in past debates. talking over monitors and opponents. I think that Donald Trump, who is going to show up next week, is going to be the most disciplined version of Donald Trump, said Ms. Bedingfield. He knows this is a big stage. Still, the two men is Mr. Biden, who may have the most to lose, says Mr. Cochell, the Republican strategist. If the president has a bad moment, such as freezing up or mumbling something incomprehensible, the panic among Democrats will be a white hot, he says, quote unquote. These debates are often a test of overcoming the negative perceptions that exist about you. Mr. Schroeder adds, and let's face it, they are both elderly men, and I've been saying this for a long time. They're both old. And it's hard to change how people perceive you, but that's what they both have to do. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender, never quit.